We started dating, he asked me to the Christmas dance our senior year. And then we just kept dating. He was a fun guy to be around. He did a lot of talking and a lot of so it was fun because we didn't just sit there. He was always talking. So
I've quieted down since.
quite a bit. This happened after high school. During high school, we just dated to a lot of school dances and things that were going on. And we always pretty much double dated with other kids. But there were a lot of times that we just watched TV or listened to ball games. And this one time, this was after we were out of school, and Dad worked so hard, but he wanted to come over every night, and visit. And so he would come over and we'd eat a little bit and we'd watch TV and he'd go to sleep. And so every night it was that. And so I just sit there and would watch TV while he was sleeping. Anyway, this one time I woke him up and told him it's time for him to go. Anyway, the next time he come over, I said, now, if you go to sleep, I'm not going to wake you up. I'm just going to go to bed. Okay, whatever, And so that's what I did. He went to sleep, so I just went in and went to bed, and he woke up. I don't know what time he woke up. He was all alone in there, and everybody had gone to bed, and there he was. So he went out the door and went home and went to bed. So anyway, he worked really hard, Dad did. He'd work all day and then he'd come over at nighttime and we just more or less watched TV. And can you think of anything else we did? Did we ever go rabbit hunting? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I remember going rabbit hunting a lot, but I don't remember what we did together.
Yeah, I went with Dad a lot, rabbit hunting, but I can't remember if we did or not. I remember being on the tractor with Dad lots of times and when he was doing stuff, and go ride the tractor with him for a pass or two. But
bring me a tree, everything. I like that.
So other than that, we didn't do a lot of, I don't remember if we ever went to a movie, did we?
I don't ever remember going to town.
It was just staying at home. We just basically thought about getting married after his mission. And so Larry had waited for George, and so I thought, well, that's kind of what you do. You just wait for the guy that you're going with, because I felt like, I loved him and I enjoyed being with him, and so that's what I thought was the means of staying together. He was really good. He always used to bring me presents, but once we got married, that switched. Isn't that funny? Anyway, we went up north and went to school in the fall. And then, what?
I went to school on the mission in November.
Yeah.
Of that fall.
So we only went for the fall time. Then he left for his mission.
I went to college just that year before, or that part of a year before my mission. And then I came home, and in fact, we got married 6 weeks after I got home, and I just went to work on the farm and worked there the rest of my life. Well, the rest of my working life.
Now we're in the golden years.
When I went to college up to Salt Lake, I lived in an upstairs apartment from a company that was a television and electronics repair company. And so I got to know the men downstairs, and so they asked me if I wanted to work for them. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I said yes, and so I went to work for them. But the interesting thing is what they would do is send me out to people that had called in and had a problem with their television. Of course, televisions weren't as good as they are nowadays, but back then, and so they'd have me go out to get the television to bring in, and we wouldn't bring the whole set in, so I'd have to take the chassis out of the television set and bring them in, and they would test the tubes and get it to where it was working, and then they'd send me back out to put it back into the television set. I'd had no training or anything. I could put back anything I put together. What was really bad is when they'd send me to put one in that I didn't take out. And then I struggled a little with that, but I did that while we were there and enjoyed that, and did learn a little bit, but I was still amazed that they had enough faith in me to send me out to get one and bring it back and take it back and put it back in their house and then turn it on to make sure it worked. But that was the only job I had while I was up there.
So I love the art, and so it was good to know that I could maybe progress in that if I had the money to get going on it. And then we went to Salt Lake and took business. I went up to do modeling and found out that I needed to take a course in, what did I say? Finishing school. And then you would get to go into modeling if you were accepted, and they thought you good enough. And so I did that, but that was only at nighttime. So I needed to do something during the day to be up there. So I went to LDS Business College and took that. And that was fun. Met a lot. My roommate at there at LDS dorms or whatever it was a girl from Enoch, from Cedar. And I had painted a big wolf that I used for to put up on the wall when we did cheerleading. And so I had taken that and put it up in my room over my bed. And she come in and said, "Oh, we're rivals, aren't we?" She was from Cedar. Yeah, we were really rivals that time, Cedar and St. George and Enterprise. And so anyway, she became one of my really close friends. She was really a good friend. But to start it out, we weren't sure if we were going to make it or not. But anyway, on to that. So I took business during the day, and then I would go to the modeling and finishing school in the evening time. But got through that, and then come home and worked at the store still with Dad in the summertime. And then Lavon went on his mission, and I went back up to Salt Lake to go do more with the modeling. And they come and talked to me and said, "We want you to be a teacher in our school for a while." And so I started doing that for the finishing school up there. And then they come to me and said, "What we'd like you to do is maybe go to one of these big stores, and we want you to try out for their fashion person there." And so I said, okay. And so I went and talked to and interviewed for that. and then they called the school and said they wanted me to do that. But I was coming home on that weekend, and so I came home and was really struggling on a lot of things, and I prayed about it, and I said, if I'm not supposed to get into this kind of stuff, help me to know I'm supposed to be back in Salt Lake. I would fly back and forth in those days, and that was so fun. Go to Cedar and fly up to Salt Lake. Larry would pick me up, and then I'd fly back, and Mom and Dad would come and get me. But anyway, it snowed, and I wasn't able to make connections to get up there. But anyway, I felt like that was telling me that maybe, I needed to rethink and do it. And so I told him, I said, I don't think I'll take that position. And so they had called and told them I wouldn't be coming. They were going to help me with everything. The school was, and help me understand how to do stuff. And then they said, okay, don't do that, but we want you to start up a finishing school in St. George. And so they came down, and we went through places that they could maybe start it up, and even had a girl down there that Pat Holland now knows, was a friend of hers, and she was really a beautiful girl, tall and blonde, and she said that she'd be willing to help me with the school. And so her name was Jerry. We work in the temple together now. Anyway, and anyway, she still, I didn't feel good about it, and especially when they said you'll need to pay $1,000 to get this, then it'll be your franchise. And I thought, if I pay that much money and have the franchise to do that, I will not want to stop, because I love this, but that's not what I want for my life. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I come back and worked for Dad in the store and waited for Lavon, for your dad. And then we got married, because I wanted children. I wanted a home. I didn't want a career. So that was it.
But I went on my mission to the Eastern States Mission, which was New York. Took all the state of New York, half of New Jersey, a little bit of Connecticut, and a little bit of Pennsylvania. So I served in 3 basic areas. 8 months in New Jersey. I started in New Jersey. And then I went out on Long Island, out from Manhattan Island, out on what they call Long Island, an island that goes out into the ocean. I was out there 8 months, and then I was transferred to upstate New York. And I was up there for the last 8 months of my mission. It was a good experience. I had some good experiences there, and some faith-promoting experiences that I had, and good experience in leadership, and met and taught some real good people that joined the church, and some that have remained active that I know of, and I don't know what happened to some of them, but some of them have been friends all through the rest of my life. I guess there was a thing or two that happened that you think are amusing. The first day in the mission field, when we got there, was in the mission home anyway, and they had all us missionaries together, and I was asked to say the prayer. And I remember praying for all us brethren and all the sistren that was there. You know what a cistern is? Afterwards, they kind of told me what a cistern was, and that the sisters there weren't cisterns. But I was from the country, you know, and from a little town in Utah. I wasn't in a big city like New York. I don't know that I had a real favorite area. I like some areas because of people that I met in each area while we were there, have an experience or two in the different areas. First area, before I ever got down to our first area, maybe I shouldn't tell this.
Think about it. Think about it.
Think about it before I do. I just remember we were waiting for missionaries to get together so that we could all go to where we were supposed to go, and there was at least one set of sisters there, and I don't remember whether there was more, but I only remember there was one set because of what happened. They fixed a meal there for us, some of the elders, and then we sat around a table, and there's this little old table that had a pull-out drawer that had the forks and knives in it, and I was getting some out, and they were all sitting down around there getting ready to eat, and I reached to pull that drawer out, and my hand slipped and hit the sister's knee there. And she says, "Elder Randall, I'll give you 20 minutes to get your hand off my knee." Good grief, I about melted under that table. I was so embarrassed. She laughed, and they all laughed at me. While I was on my mission, I had two different mission presidents. The first mission president when I got there, his name was Gerald G. Smith, and we only had him for about 3 months or 6 months. Don't remember just how long. It wasn't very long. And then he went home and got a new mission president. His name was Wilburn C. West, and he served as the mission president the rest of my mission there. We went to our first area, and we went to, and they had an apartment for us. It was a little resort or summer area. Bradley Beach was the name of it. And by the name, it was next to the beach. Across the road was the Atlantic Ocean. But everyone was gone for the winter, and there we were in just some of those little old houses and little old apartment things that people would come for the summer for. But I guess that's all the elders could find for us to live in. However, in a month or two, we found a different one up in a little town called Middleton, New Jersey, which was in the same area, our area, but a branch there. We went to church there in a YMCA building. We had to clean it up in the mornings on Sunday morning, and while I was there, one day I'd left my scriptures out in the car, and I went out to get them, and there was just a little short fence out there, and I jumped the fence and twisted my ankle. So I was on crutches for about 2 weeks or so, and at the YMCA where we went to church, we had steps, and I was going to try to catch some people that we had invited to church and had come, and so I was hurrying down those steps after church, and so I just stuck my crutches out and started hopping down on one foot, and I got a little too far out, and I ended up at the bottom of the stairs and embarrassed myself to death there again. So I had a few little experiences like that happened to me. My first companion was Dean Menlove from Salt Lake City, and I mentioned that because it was interesting when he married a Colleen also, Colleen Menlove, and she served on one of the general boards.
She was primary president.
General primary president, And so I thought that was quite a neat connection. And when we was up at conference one time and in a fast food restaurant, Dean Menlove came in and we recognized each other and had a good visit for a few minutes there then. I guess I remember most all of my companions for something, and we got along really good, most all of us, all the time. Well, I believe that while I was on my mission, first experience I had with giving blessings, priesthood blessings, and realizing how important they are and that how real the priesthood is. And when I went on my mission, we hadn't had a lot of experience with, I'd never given a blessing, to be honest with you, a priesthood blessing. And I'd only been out about 3 months, and I had a companion that had been out about 3 months also, so we were relatively new, and we were in a new area there. We were out tracting one day and knocking on doors, and we knocked on a door and a lady answered the door, and it was a screen door, and she was standing inside and we were outside, and I couldn't really see her, so we were just talking to her through the screen door. But for some reason I really felt something about her. A closeness of some sort. And so we were talking and told her that we were ministers, and we'd like to tell her about the church. And she said, well, I don't know, but that might be okay. And I felt like I could, for some reason, I could tease her a little, and that's kind of was my nature in my early days. And so we asked her about her husband. She said her husband wasn't home, and then a man came down the sidewalk that looked a little rugged, rough. I said, is that your husband? And she said, oh no. And I didn't figure it was, but I was just kidding her. But we kidded and talked, and then finally she said, you're ministers, is that right? And we said, yes. And she says, well, if you're ministers, aren't there something you do for people that are sick or have a problem and can help them out? And we said, oh yeah, we give priesthood blessings to people that have problems. And she says, well, I have this terrible, terrible headache that's just really been killing me. Would you give me a blessing? Man, that scared me half to death. I'd never given a blessing, and I didn't really know how. And so she said, come in. And so we went in, and I thought, well, the best thing to do is try to talk her out of it. I said, do you really believe that we could give you a blessing to help you? And she said, yes, I really do. That kind of surprised me. I thought we could too, but she was a non-member, somebody we'd only just barely met. But she seemed really sincere. And so we said, she says, how do you do it? And we said, well, we have oil. We anoint the person with oil. I knew that much. And she says, well, will you give me one of those blessings? And I said, well, can you wait just a minute, and I'll go out to the car and get the oil. And so really what I went out was look at the handbook on how to give a blessing. So I read up real quick on how you do it and got the oil, and we went in, and I still was really nervous about it. And so I said, you're really sure that you think we can? And she said, yes. I said, well, can we have a word of prayer first? Then we'll give you the blessing. And she said, yes. And I said, can we kneel down? And she said, yes. And so we knelt down and had a prayer, and then we got up, and my companion anointed her, and finally I gave her a blessing. I don't know what I said or anything. All I know is I was glad to get out of there after we got done. But we were having a branch party picnic that night, and so we said to her, would you and your family like to come to a church picnic tonight? And then we left, and I really didn't think they would probably come, but that evening we were there at the picnic, and here she came with her husband and with her children. And we were out in a picnic area or a park area, and there was a drinking fountain out there, and she said, I need a drink of water. Is there a fountain? And I said, yes, there's one over here. And so we walked over to the fountain, and she went to get a drink, and I was going to turn the knob for her to get a drink, and so I turned it full blast, and it shot up and hit her in the face, and she started wiping her face, and she says, man, that was a dirty trick to play on me after what you did for me this morning. And I said, what was that? And she said, when you two laid your hands on my head, that headache disappeared, and it's never come back since. And that was my first experience in blessing someone, and the first time. I think her faith in the priesthood that we held, and she didn't know anything about the priesthood at the time, but we went on to teach her and her family. Her husband didn't ever join the church, but she and her children joined the church. Other experience that I had, I guess things that mean something. We had a missionary couple. It was in my last upstate New York. We had a missionary couple, an older couple. They were from Las Vegas, and they had him be the branch president, but he was pretty old and really couldn't do a lot of the organizing and everything that needed to go on in the branch. And so I was assigned to help him do it, and that was the first experience. And I felt like I gained a lot of experience on working with people and working in the branch and how to run the meetings and in helping him do those things. But I always let him do what he was supposed to do, being the branch president. We had the Hill Cumorah pageant in our mission, and back in those days they had students from BYU come out to be participants in the pageant, but they also used the missionaries as participants. And so each year we got to go up to the Hill Cumorah and spend 2 weeks up there preparing for the pageant, to be in the pageant, and also to see how they wanted us to do missionary work with the people that came. I was participated in the Hill Cumorah pageant the first year. It was interesting how they picked the participants. The man that was the director, his name was Harold I. Hansen from BYU. And he sat there on a chair, and they had each of us walk in front of him and stand, and he looked at us, and then he would tell us what part we would be in the pageant. I walked up and stood in front of him, and he looked at me and he said, Randall, are you a holy terror? I said, well, I guess. He says, you look like one. You'll be a wicked priest of King Noah. And that's what I was a wicked priest of King Noah. In fact, I was the chief wicked priest, I guess, because the stage on that scene, there was 2 stages, and down on the one scene is where we were, Abinadi was down there, and us wicked priests was giving him a bad time, and then I went up the stage and told wicked King Noah that there was a man down there by the name of Abinadi that was saying bad things about us and about him. And so wicked King Noah sent me back down to get Abinadi, and So I went back down and told the others to help me, and we drug a Benadai up to the next stage, and there we tied him to the post and we burned him there at the stake. So I guess they could see through me all the way. What a holy terror I really am and was. Then we would, during the day at different times, we would, I remember in the Sacred Grove, we, while others were practicing, we'd go in there and have testimony meetings, and we'd have speakers in there, and they had seating area in there for us to sit and listen. And there I met some of my good friends. Rhett Shakespeare from Tropic. He was the head cook. Well, he was over food services. He was a missionary, but he had worked over at Bryce Canyon before his mission in food services over there, and so he was head food service, and they'd fix lunches for us there, and it was nice to be a friend to him, because I could go down where he was at, and we could get into the food a little bit and eat. So we made some good friends while I was on my mission.
After his mission, they were friends for a long time. They would come over and we'd go over there, vice versa, 2 or 3 times during the year, and visit them till most of their kids were grown, didn't we?
Yes.
So
After they got married, they lived in St. George, but they invited us to their wedding reception, which was going to be in Tropic. And they had a problem with that date, and they might have sent some retractors out to people, but they didn't send one to us because maybe they didn't think we'd ever go over there. But we showed up over there when the first announcement said it was supposed to be, and it'd been postponed a week. So they told us it'd been postponed a week, and so we came back home. But the next week we went back over again, didn't we, and went to their wedding reception over there. I had quite a few companions, and I got along really well with most of them. One really tried my patience, though. He was really spoiled. And boy, I never was, but he sure was. In fact, he wouldn't eat what I would cook, and in fact, a lot of the food we bought, he would buy his own what he wanted, and so I'd have to buy what I wanted, and he'd cook what he wanted because he wouldn't let me cook for him. He told me that wasn't good, and he says he wouldn't even let his mother cook some of the stuff for him, that he had to cook it himself. And so one time I told him that we needed to do something and that he should do it, and he told me he wouldn't do it, and I said I really thought he should, and he came in with some toothpaste in his mouth and acted like he was going to spit it on me, and I said, don't do that, and he spit it on me, and before long we were on the floor and across the bed, and I had him down and choking him, and when I finally got a hold of myself, I let him up, and we went on. And I only say that much because everything went okay after that, but when we met at the Hill Cumorah pageant, you'd have thought we was the best buddies that was ever had. He came, give me a big hug, asked me how things were going. And when our boy Bud was teaching school up in McCammon, Idaho, and coaching basketball up there, went to a basketball game one night, and lo and behold, there he was. Larry Mortimer was his name. And I saw his name, and somehow I saw his name or picked it up, but then I could recognize who he was. And I went and stopped him, and we visited and had a good visit, and so he didn't ever hold it against me, I guess, but because we were good friends, and it was a good meeting that I had with him later. In my last area, we baptized a family, the mother, and no, we didn't baptize. She was baptized after we left. 3 boys, and one of the boys, he was about 18 or 19. His name was Doug Fay, or is Doug Fay. Stayed in contact with Doug all these years. But Doug actually, after he was baptized and after we came home and he got old enough, he went on a mission. He went to California, served his mission in California, and that was in the days when they were baptizing a lot of people, and he was a real successful missionary there and taught and baptized a lot of people. But one of his brothers, in one of the meetings before we come home, and they knew I was going home soon, and as we was teaching them, and asked him to say the prayer, and he said, "And bless Elder Randall that he'll go home and get married and have 50 children." And then he started laughing. So it was some interesting things that happened and things that was said by people. But Doug's been a good friend. We still talk to him every now and then. He married, and he didn't have any boys. He had 2 or 3 girls that served me, and they served missions. And so he's been good and faithful and active in the church all his life. Then I came home, got home in November, last of November, got in Salt Lake the day President Kennedy was shot. And that was about the 20th or 21st of November, something like that, of 1963, if I remember correctly.
I still remember that day because we were shopping in one of the stores up there, and that they came over their loudspeaker of the store and said that President Kennedy had been shot. That was a drastic thing.
My mother and dad came up to Salt Lake to pick me up, and Colleen came with them. And we were married 6 weeks later. On December the 11th.
Yeah, January.
January the 11th, okay. December 10th's her birthday, and December 11th is my dad's birthday, and we were married the 11th of January. Mm-hmm.